I think it's showtime now. And thanks for your patience, everybody. Today on Collect All Monsters, you will meet the co hosts of this new endeavor. We'll learn all about these guys with a special round of questions designed by Leslie P. Chambers and learn all about our love for kaiju monsters, kaiju toys, and what makes us collectors. Hey, and welcome to the first episode, our debut episode of Collect All Monsters. My name is Kyle, and for the past 10 years, I've been running the Kaiju Cast, an audio podcast dedicated to the kaiju genre, or as I would say in the show, dedicated to Godzilla and all of his rubber suited foes. Now, I've done things a little bit different here now. I'm setting up a live stream YouTube channel. If you can see my co hosts all around here, we're kicking off this project, which again is Collect All Monsters. Every month it'll be broadcast live, and it's all about kaiju toys. And our first episode, this one, or actually that is episode 0, will be a live stream discussion, as I mentioned earlier, with questions designed by our co-host Leslie P. Chambers down there. And then in general, for the following episodes, everyone will develop their own segment, and that's how Collect All Monsters is gonna work. Let me very quickly introduce my fellow hosts. To this side is David Eric Dobko. Down there in the corner, Mr. John Ruffin. Leslie Chambers, of course, down below me here. And unfortunately, Center Square is not joining us today. That is Christine Chapin. She cannot be here, but we have a special sort of correspondence videos sent in by her that she'll be answering Leslie's questions with. So I think that pretty much kicks things off as far as I'm concerned. Leslie, would you like to take it away and go ahead and ask your first question?
Oh, absolutely. Thank you for everybody for tuning in to this awesome new show. No, it's been a long time coming, but we're finally here. And thank you for everybody that's been supporting us, everybody in the chat right now. We really do appreciate it. And we're going to have a fun-filled show for you for this time and for the future shows coming. My first question is, what was your first kaiju movie that made you fan and a collector?
All right. So I think what we're going to do for this discussion portion is we're going to go in a clockwise motion. So that means I'm number one here. So I actually, the first movie that I ever saw, it's kind of funny because a lot of people had like Godzilla. It was one of the Godzilla movies was their very first one, but I had a really backwards way of getting all that in my life. And so essentially my mom took me to a toy store one time, and in that toy store they had the Mattel Shogun Warriors Rodan figure. And I was like, oh my gosh, I love dinosaurs and I need to have that figure in my life. So I got the figure as a kid, very lucky, of course, to have the Shogun Warriors Rodan in my life. But what ended up happening is later on in my life, we were in a video store and my mom was like, oh, there's the movie that is based on the figure that you got when you were a little younger. And so I rented that movie over and over and over and over again. Rodan was like a huge influence on my life just in general, but it also, I didn't think it was like a genre thing. I didn't even really know about Godzilla. And so when I lived in Japan, and like as a 13-year-old, I was very lucky to catch Godzilla 1985 on TV. and it was life-changing, honestly. I mean, really, the whole thing with Godzilla was I didn't know that's what I wanted in my life, but that's what Godzilla ended up sort of becoming, is like what I needed. And so I found out about Godzilla from 1985, and that is definitely what made me a fan. I went out almost immediately to buy some kind of Godzilla merchandise, and I've been a huge fan ever since.
Awesome.
Fantastic.
And I believe also, since I already sort of gave my own introduction, when you guys are introduced here for your first question, why don't you guys give a little brief introduction on who you are too? So I will just pass things off to my good friend David, who lives above me in Seattle, Washington.
Yes, sir. So my name is David, and I am a toy collector, photographer, model builder, and longtime fan of Japanese sci-fi fantasy movies and television, which brings me to my first exposure to a Godzilla film. As Kyle said, I was also very much into dinosaurs, as many other, collectors are. And there it is. And my dad circled this movie and TV guide called Monster Zero that he thought I would like. And sure enough, it had pretty much some awesome looking dinosaur-like creatures, being Godzilla, Rodan, and King Ghidorah. And, I was hooked after that. And back then, this was like early 70s, so there wasn't really that many toys available at the time. But this will sort of segue into John Ruffin's comments, because there was a television channel called Channel 17, which was a Philadelphia-based TV channel. And they ran Ultraman from the 70s all the way through, I think, like 1980. And one day after school, I discovered this awesome TV show called Ultraman. And I was like totally mesmerized by it. And one of the first things I remembered was the sound of the Science Patrol telephone was the same sound that King Ghidorah made. Even back then, before knowing anything about the movies, I made that connection. So, I guess I was pretty much hooked from that point on. So with that, I'm going to segue down to my friend John Ruffin.
Thank you, David. And it's an honor to be with Kyle, David, and Leslie and Christine on this debut show. I'm known by my kaiju. I'm a Godzilla toy photographer, and I've been collecting toys since the 70s. And I'm just looking forward to sharing my passion for Godzilla and collecting Japanese kaiju toys and collectibles. What was interesting about my first kaiju movie that made me a collector and a fan, it actually started growing up. My first encounter with kaiju, Japanese monsters, was during a local television program called the Wee Willie Weber Show here in Philadelphia.
I remember
Channel
it well.
17. Mm-hmm. Yes. Every day after school, I would jump, in front of the TV to watch Astro Boy, Speed Racer, Giant Robo, also known as Johnny Sacco and his flying robot, the Space Giants. You have to grab your whistle and call Godar, or it was Ultraman. So that was 5 days a week, and pull out your trusty beta capsule and become Ultraman. But it wasn't until the weekends that I saw my first kaiju film, Godzilla versus the Sea Monster, on local TV programs. And we had some of the best local shows, like Creature Double Feature, Theater Bizarre on Channel 29, Dr. Shock, which was earlier than just about all of them, on Channel 17.
Oh, yes.
And Godzilla versus the Sea Monster, wow, I probably saw that most, but then following was Ghidorah the Three-Headed Monster, Monster Zero, and King Kong versus Godzilla. I remember how that was kind of a special viewing that came on during the week. There was Mothra and Rodan. So they made me the Godzilla collector and fan that I am today. And with that said, let me turn it over to Leslie.
Are we going to do Christine's stuff first?
We are going to do Christine's first, actually, just because she unfortunately cannot make it to join the live stream. Someday she's going to move out of the third world country that is upstate New York. But right now, let's hear how Christine became a fan.
Hi, I'm Christine. I've been a Godzilla fan for over 25 years now. and I've been collecting about 8 of them. My kind of niche in the collecting community is the foodie. I love the bright colored sculpts. They're so playful. Toy graph is my number one favorite line to collect. I really enjoy toy photography, and every once in a while, my artistic side comes out, and I'll kick out a few chibi drawings of Godzilla and other kaiju that I like. I'm sure you see me around at BFest. I usually help out with the Japanese guests that we bring over to the different U.S. conventions, and I'll be around in the dealer's room helping out in there as well, selling. So my first kaiju film that made me a fan was the original Godzilla King of the Monsters. That had Raymond Burr in it. My dad actually bought it for me when I was in second grade because I was obsessed with dinosaurs at the time. And once I saw this, it was love at first sight, and I've been hooked for life.
All right, there
Excellent. Thanks, Christine.
you go. Back to you, gentlemen.
We're still here.
Well, it's my turn now. And of course, my name is Leslie P. Chambers on behalf of Leslie Chambers Kaiju Reviews and Summit Kaiju. You probably see my fat face a couple times on YouTube. But yeah, my first kaiju movie is, of course, not the greatest Godzilla film, but still I can't bring myself to bash it. And that is, of course, is Godzilla versus Megalon. And unlike my fellow co-hosts, where David and Kyle, they were into dinosaurs, they kind of transitioned them into Godzilla somewhat. I'm the exact opposite. I was never really a dinosaur fan. The one moment that made me a Godzilla fan, and I remember this vividly, was that my mom and my brother brought me into the living room after I was asleep. It was one night, and I was about maybe 4 or 5 years old. And they brought me into the living room thinking I might like what they were watching. And they were watching Godzilla vs. Megalon. And they brought me into the scene where that Jaguar is flying over the ocean and Godzilla's in the ocean swimming, and they're both are making their way towards Japan. And you have that heroic Godzilla theme in the background. That right there was the moment that made me a Godzilla fan. That right there. Then on top of that, it made me want to see a whole bunch of other Godzilla films. So I started watching a lot more Godzilla films that were coming on TV at the time. The original 1954 Godzilla King of the Monsters, King Kong versus Godzilla, Godzilla vs. the Sea Monster, Monster Zero, and Godzilla 1985. And you would think they would throw me for a loop because Godzilla in those particular films go through different characterizations, but I want to see more and more and more. And that basically pretty much made me a fan. And once I find out that, there are collectibles of these figures of those monsters on the film, and once I got a job and I was able to afford these figures, I was like, 'cause that's the important thing, ladies and gentlemen. You have to make sure that you can afford them. But once I was able to get into a position where I can afford them, I was like, you know what? I'm going after every single one that I want to have in my collection. And that's basically what started me on my journey. Godzilla versus Megalon.
Nice.
Fantastic.
So which leads me to my next question. What is your favorite Holy Grail / kaiju collectible in your collection currently?
Is that the question? Or I thought it was their first kaiju collectible.
Oh, my fault. That's number 3. Sorry. Number 2 is like, okay, what is your what was your first kaiju collectible that you ever had in your possession, and how long have you been collecting?
Okay, so I'll kick things off, and I will definitely start by saying that my very first kaiju collectible, as I've mentioned already, was actually the 70s Shogun Warrior Rodan. I also, I didn't know Godzilla. So when I looked at the back of the Godzilla gang figures, if anybody's familiar with those, I'm sure the people watching right now, there's probably some people out there that had them. But basically, those Godzilla gang figures, I'm sure most of us know, Godzilla was the only one from the actual Godzilla series in the actual set, and everything else was an Ultra Kaiju. And so I couldn't find Godzilla, but I found Marucci. And I think, this guy right here. And he actually, I did not have any idea who he was or what he was from, but I had this monster in my collection. But really, it's Rodan. Rodan is the big one for me. This is a childhood photo. You know, I asked my mom to send it to me. But yeah, the Rodan was definitely my very first kaiju collectible.
Wait a minute, hold on. I gotta ask something. You had a full beard at 4 or 5 years old, or 10 years old? You had a full
dude, photo evidence right there. I mean,
talk about early puberty. Early puberty. Wow.
But yeah, I didn't actually really consider myself a collector until much later in life, like in the 90s when I was living in Savannah, Georgia. I came across the Trendmasters figures, and even though I had been sort of collecting the movies on VHS tapes at the time, I had no idea what these figures were all about, and so I just sort of bought a whole bunch of them. I lived really close to a Toys R Us at the time, so that definitely got me interested enough in Godzilla, and then I got the internet, and then that's when I found out about all of the wondrous majesty that is Godzilla's reign.
Yes.
And I believe it's time for us to hear about David's first collectible.
So mine goes back a little bit earlier than Kyle's. It was soon after I saw Monster Zero, and I remember the deal was if I got a good report card in elementary school, I could go to Woolworths and pick out something that I wanted. And sure enough, I got a pretty good report card. I probably said talks too much, but other than that, it was a good report card. And sure enough, on the shelf was the now iconic Aurora Glow Godzilla. Kyle, I think you have an image of that on there for it. Yeah, there it is. I was mesmerized by that James Bond box art. And luckily, I was able to get a pretty pristine box on eBay about 10 years ago, because the one I had as a kid is long gone. And anyway, yeah, that was my very first Godzilla toy. And I think that was pretty much the only thing that was available in the early 70s. Is that right, guys? I mean, the Shogun came much later, and I'm talking about in the United States.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, yeah, that's my very first, and I still have it and I love it. And I think, Kyle, you have another picture of my actual kit on your thing. Yes,
wow.
That is a picture of my actual kit that I had from the 70s. It does have a new hand and nameplate because I had lost those playing with it at the beach, which I used to do with all of my toys and models, which is sad because, you know, I played really hard with them. But yeah, that's a new hand and nameplate that I got from a Polar Light reissue some years back. But yeah, and I repainted it about 20 years ago. But yeah, that is the actual very first Godzilla toy that I ever purchased. And like, as I said before, I'm still mesmerized by the Aurora Glow box art. So I'm ready to pass it down to my friend John Ruffin. How about you?
Hold on.
Yes, sir.
I have a question, David.
Yes, sir.
Is that Godzilla a particular year?
It looks like it represents the King Kong versus Godzilla. It's a little bit stylized, but here I still have the box here. You can kind of see.
Nice.
I mean, what do you guys think? I think this is the closest Godzilla that I would equate this to is the 62 King Kong versus Godzilla. Would you guys agree?
Definitely.
I was looking at the dorsal plates and it looked like the 64, but maybe I'm too much of a 64 fan. That's all I see. But that's what I was looking at the dorsal plates, and
that's the thing.
I see the 62 in the face.
Yeah.
I see the 62 in the face, but that's the great thing about art, Leslie, is it's subjective. So anybody sees what they want to see in it. And you know, the boxes themselves are worth so much more than the actual styrene kits now, because, you know, they reissue the kit so many times over the years, but the boxes, to keep them in that great mint condition. Yeah. And one more thing I will say, they came out with well, actually there was 3. There was the very first one, which was the long box, which was not a glow in the dark figure. And then the second one, which I have, is the 69 version that came out in 1969. And the box had a really vibrant lithograph glued onto it. And then again, it was re-released in 1972, where the image is printed right onto the box. So the most sought after one, which I'm lucky to have, is the 1969 lithograph box version. So
beautiful.
Anyway, a little bit of information.
Beautiful. Okay, my turn.
Yes, sir.
So, growing up in the early 70s, like most of you, I love dinosaurs, and so I would use my small little plastic dinosaurs, especially the T-Rex figure as Godzilla. And maybe around the age of 4, I drew a picture of that dinosaur with Godzilla's name written on it, because the names of the dinosaurs would commonly be written on the tail. Kyle, I may have a photo of that.
Yes.
And what's special about this drawing is that my dad hung this drawing in his school where he taught art for 30 years. And so it's, in a way, it's one of my oldest collectibles, and probably it's my own work, but it was the earliest that I can recall. And you can see and at the bottom I said I want to be a toy maker or something like that, and toy collector. So this is probably the earliest collectible I have. It was not until the late 70s that I would purchase my first kaiju collectible. In about 1978, I remember that time pretty vividly. I was with my best friend and fellow collector, Eric, and we went to Kitty City, I believe it was, in downtown Philadelphia. And we were going through the aisles, and there before my eyes, I couldn't believe it was the Mattel Shogun Warrior Godzilla. And I couldn't afford it at the time, but I was just mesmerized. I couldn't believe I was seeing Godzilla. Oh, thanks, Kyle.
I remember Kitty City.
Yes, Shop
Absolutely.
Kitty City, store capital of the world.
That's right.
Super fast to break in, because I grew up in Atlanta, Georgia. We didn't have Lionel Kitty City. We had Lionel Play World.
Oh,
So
interesting.
it had the same kangaroo there. Anyway,
Yeah.
continue, John.
Definitely a competition to Toys R Us. I think it was actually surpassed Toys R Us in the East, the Northeast anyway.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I think Toys R Us put them out, kind of.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah. So we were going through the aisles, and I saw the Shogun Warrior and Godzilla, but I couldn't afford that. But right beside it, and this was the first that I purchased, was the Bendy Godzilla from GLJ. Really, this was it. But shortly later, at Christmas, my parents got me Godzilla Shogun Warrior figure, and we all have it in the hands. Doesn't fire anymore. Well, the fire doesn't stay in. But this is one of my prized. Still have it. With that said, it was shortly after that, because the Mattel was rolling out with so much at that time. I started collecting the Godzilla from the Godzilla gang, and I have a few other figures. This is one of my favorites. This actually, I loaned out my original to a good friend of mine, and he asked me to hold it. He asked to hold it, and he never gave it back to me. So I had to go and search and find. This is actually the Poppy version that it's based on. I also, at that time, got the Godzilla game. And there were other items and collectibles as well as that time, like Godzilla puzzles, things like that I was able to acquire. But then all of a sudden, it just kind of died. And it wasn't until the mid-'80s. And this is really when my collecting started. I kind of just mention it. Was 30th anniversary of Godzilla, 1984. I didn't know the Godzilla movie, 1984 was coming out. But my friend Eric, once again, his mom was going through the paper, and I believe she found there was a big celebration going on in downtown Philadelphia at my favorite first Japanese Godzilla collectible store, which was rocket ships and accessories. Kyle, I think I have a little clip. John Stanowski of Kaiju Addicts, he provided this clip. It just brings back so many memories. But there I started to purchase my first Japanese Godzilla figures, books, and that really was when my collection took off. Awesome. Rocket ships and accessories was only around for a couple of years, but I would go down here after school and on the weekends with my little few dollars and built up my collection. One of my earliest pieces was a Godzilla album, and so many things I still prize to this day. And that's that. So my first was the Bendy, but it was in short session. So many other wonderful things came along with it.
All right, so I believe that means it's time for Christine to tell us exactly how she became a collector.
my very first collectible was the Pen Masters Wind Up Godzilla. I actually still have him. He still works and he's still on my shelf. I got him as a birthday present from my best friend Heather when I was in third grade. So he's still hanging around. I had been buying figures on and off around maybe 2001, 2002 at the end of high school. But I didn't really seriously start collecting until November of 2011 when the first SH Monsters Godzilla came out. And I remember I was so excited, and I remember thinking, like, wow, $50, that's a lot of money for a Godzilla figure. And so it's kind of funny to think about that now. And then maybe like a year or two after that, I got into X Plus, and it was just downhill for my wallet from then. But it's totally fine.
It's totally fine.
Yes, it is.
It's totally fine.
It's totally
on these
fine.
things, yes.
Ugh.
All right, Leslie. I think that means we're passing it to you now.
Okay, my first kaiju collectible was actually two of them, and it was the Imperial King Kong and Godzilla figure, excuse me. And those were just made my childhood so much better. Around the same time when I started watching Godzilla movies, then I got D2's figures in my hand. Yeah, those two. Those two were my first, but it kind of took me for a loop because if you had those figures, Kong is actually bigger than Godzilla, which is not how it was in the film back in the day. So I was kind of thrown for a loop about that, but that still didn't stop me for me playing with them every single afternoon after school and just make them clash to the point where paint got chipped off and dorsal fins got torn off and Kong's teeth got ripped off. And, I guess that's the price you pay for having fun sometimes. But yeah, but those two were my first collectibles when I was a kid. Then I transitioned into Bandai when I was like early an adult. I want to say like around maybe I say 22. My first Bandai was the 14-inch 91 Godzilla. And then later on, once I got me a good paying job, it got me into X Plus, and it's been basically X Plus ever since. So yeah, but my first two, the Imperial Godzilla and King Kong. By the way, Kong's gonna win next year.
Not gonna happen.
All right. So now let's go to the third question. Right now, what is your favorite / holy grail kaiju collectible that you have in your collection right now?
Okay, so my very favorite grail. So, holy grail for me in terms of a kaiju figure means something that I really want really badly, and it's taking me a long time to search for it. And so for me, there are a lot of things that I could say are my holy grails. There's figures that I thought, oh, I'll never be able to afford that. And then years later, I figure it out and am able to afford it. But the one thing that I'd say out of everything in my collection that fits that mental description I have for a holy grail figure is actually a model kit. I also make model kits every once in a while. And this is a very special kit to me because I'm a huge fan of Godzilla, Mothra, King Ghidorah, Giant Monsters All Out Attack. And I'm a huge fan of the concepts that came out beforehand by Shusuke Kaneko, where he wanted to bring in Angulus and Varan. And they had this design for Varan that I went crazy for when I saw it. I don't even know where it was. It was somewhere online. But I always wanted to have a copy, my own version of that. And then I found out that they made a kit. Someone made a kit. And I was able to eventually, maybe only a couple of years ago, pick this up. And then I painted it up this year. And this is the paint job I gave it. I actually worked with my good friend David on coming up with the idea here for this particular paint job. It's a verdigris style, which is like copper or bronze that's been left out to weather. And so I'm super proud of it.
Beautiful.
And someday I hope to actually build a diorama around this thing because I have all these crazy ideas, man, about what I want this dude to look like. But yeah, I'm a huge fan of this. Made by M1 actually, which is why I was able to score this amazing kit after it was produced. Anyway, there it is.
You did a bang up job on the
Yeah.
building and painting too. It's fantastic.
Thanks, buddy. It was a lot of fun actually working with David and trying to figure out like he really helped me sort of like bounce ideas off his head to try and figure out like, oh, what if I did it like, you know, bright red or bright orange, or what if I think the reason we got to the verdigris was because I said maybe green, because some of the lobby card images of Varan have him with a green hue to him. And then when I said that, I think that's what triggered Dave to think of the Daibutsu, the big giant Buddha
statue
in Kamakura.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That we actually saw together.
That's right.
Yep.
We did.
I got a question. How do you, and this goes to my fellow co-host, how do y'all say Varan? Do you say Varan, Varan, or what?
Ooh, I used to say Varan, and then I know that the actual Japanese name for it is Baran or Barun.
Baran,
So
yeah. Mhm.
I try to sort of morph the two and make it Baran. Baran.
I say Varan. Varan.
I do too. I should know
Close
better.
enough.
But
Yeah.
I say.
I say Varan. So
Varan.
I don't know.
All right, we'll
Okay.
split evenly.
That's
I
all
like it.
All right.
All right, so David, what about you, man? Do you have a
So-
grail in your collection?
Of course I do, sir. Thanks for asking. I'm going to backtrack just a bit because I don't think I answered Leslie's last question correctly. I didn't talk about how long I've been collecting, and I'll really briefly touch on that. Aside from the Aurora Godzilla, I didn't really have that much Godzilla or kaiju-wise in my collection, period. Star Wars came out, and that sort of stole my focus for many years. And it wasn't until I moved to New York City in 1990 where I started discovering awesome toy shops like Children of Paradise, Zaka, Village Comics, things like that. And I really started to get into the Bandai figures. So real funny story. This is even before I moved to New York. I was still living in New Jersey. I took the train in, and I was on Bleecker Street, and they had this video store that sold bootleg Godzilla videos, which I ended up buying Destroy All Monsters. But on the cash register, they had Bandai Godzilla 1984, the smaller scale one with the tag on it. And they were $5 a piece. I was like, oh, cool. I'll pick that guy up. And then behind it, there was 2 or 3 Bandai 1988 reissue King Ghidorah figures, Showa King Ghidorah. And I was like, excuse me, how much are those? And he said, oh, those are $25. And I'm like, 25? Who in their right mind is going to pay $25 for a piece of plastic? And those were untruer words were spoken, you know, and that figure ended up being a grail for me for many years. I didn't get it until many, many years later in like a one that was in good condition. But anyway, sorry about that. The grail that I have now, and I think Kyle has a picture, but I also have them right here too. This is the Bullmark Godzilla, one of the very first, if not the first Godzilla toy ever produced.
Awesome.
And when I think of a holy grail, I think of something that you have to go on a quest to find, something that's difficult, and you have to travel far and search for the figure. So this was in 2015, and it was my 50th birthday, and a group of us went to Japan for a trip and also for my birthday. And my quest was to find my very first vintage piece. So lucky for me, we were I think it was the second or third time we were actually at Nakano Broadway. And Mandarake didn't have anything, or if they did, it was too expensive or it was not in great condition. So I kind of veered off from the group and went around the corner on the same floor as Mandarake. And there was an antique Japanese store that sold things other than just toys. And in the case, kind of the second case in, I noticed this guy, and they also had a green one next to him. So I asked the shop owner to if I could look at them and how much they were. And I even asked him if they're reproductions because the condition was so good. And he said, no, they're original. And then I actually noticed some creases around the eyes, and I smelled it, and there's a distinct smell to vintage vinyl. So there it is. I was able to handpick my very first vintage piece on my 50th birthday trip to Japan. So if that's not a grail, I don't know what is. So, and then I never actually was able to get the Mattel Godzilla in the States. But on that same trip, when we were in Osaka, John Bumpus was with us on the trip, and he pulled me over to the Mandarake in Osaka and pointed to a case with the Popey Jumbosaurus in it, and it was for sale.
Awesome.
And it was in my budget, and I picked that up too, and I carried him home on the plane with me. He sat kind of next to me on the plane, and that's another, childhood grail achieved that I didn't even really know that I wanted. So that's it for me. How about you, Mr. Ruffin?
Oh, wow. Holy Grails come in all kind of sizes, small and large, and some of my most precious items are made of paper. But there's a couple that really are special to me. The first was the Kyoto Shin Godzilla, and the movie Shin Godzilla I hold dear to my heart. And I think it was a week ago or 2 weeks ago, I forget, I lost track of time, on Leslie's show, I was talking about that connection. In 2016, I had the privilege of being in Japan to see it on the opening night. And it was a very powerful, I say, cathartic experience. That I was in Japan on 3/11 during the earthquake, tsunami, and then the Fukushima nuclear power plant meltdown. And so when I saw the film, it was just connected so deeply because of the imagery and all. But around a week prior, there was Wonderfest, and they had the Kyoto, I think, president and the sculptor who sculpted the Shin Godzilla figure. And I saw the replica, not the $10,000 one, but the about $1,000 version. I was like, I've got to, have to have that. But I missed out on it. But 2 years later, I was able to grab it. Now you might be able to see it off to the side here. It's too big for me to hold, but it's like the centerpiece of my collection. The detail's amazing. Everything about it is just fantastic. The jaw and the tail moves. That's really special to me. And the second piece I would share, it's like a holy grail. Each one I took a little time to work to get, but this one was unexpected, but I knew it existed. I was in Denden in Osaka, going in jungle. Jungle is amazing. I mean, I always find something unique that I didn't find in other locations. But it's the something small, but like and I didn't get to mention this. I mean, my favorite show, a Godzilla movie next to 54, is Godzilla versus Mechagodzilla. And so anything from that just floors me. So cast, they make these incredible, detailed, small figurines. But here's the one, when I saw it, I'm not leaving without it, and I was so elated, is the pipe.
Yes.
God. Gotta have the pipe. And it's got the HM
Space
on it.
Titanium.
Yes.
That's right.
Sugoi pipe desu ne.
That's one dangerous pipe.
Hey, don't open it. Don't open it. You may put your computer down. Don't open it.
Exactly.
Not on the live stream. Not on the live stream.
No.
Not tonight. But, this is small, but finding it unexpectedly was like everything. So there's so many other things that I didn't get to show it earlier, but something I've been collecting, little pieces of the past, this TV guide. Is this one I remember growing up with from Philadelphia, but it has pages inside with the listings with Ultraman, Johnny Sacco, and Godzilla movies. So it's like having a little bit of the past. And, these are the things that go with me. That they're not other grails now because I have to go back in time to find, go back and find them from the past. But the search is a part of the reward, and having them just brings back those wonderful memories, And with that said,
all right. With that said, I believe it is time for us to figure out what Christine's answer to that question is. Her grail, which I know we can hear about right now.
Oh, this question is so hard. I have so many favorites. This isn't fair. Probably my holy grail is the The 1954 toy graph Howler. I call this one the diamond in my collection because this, like, the way the light hits it's like prismatic and it just shines like all on its own. And I'm a sucker for blue, so he's got this beautiful blue spray on him. But I've been looking for this one for a while, and it was really hard to track down. And it was just such a great feeling when I finally got it, and I really can't stop looking at it on my shelf every day.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
That's a
Gorgeous.
beautiful piece. I'd like to have
Yeah.
that too.
And so, what about you, Leslie? Where do you sit with the whole Holy Grail?
Of course, mine is no secret. Of course, everybody who knows me already knows I'm a huge King Ghidorah fan. I'm a huge King Kong fan. But there's one Godzilla design that I love above anything else is, of course, the 1964 Godzilla from Mothra versus Godzilla, or Godzilla versus the Thing, and the M1 rubber 50 centimeter model kit. Oh my God.
Amazing.
Yes, that guy
Awesome in person.
It's a beauty. It's a beauty.
there. Oh my God. And truth be told, you know what? When I got it, it was listed on eBay and nobody was bidding on it. And mind you, I already had another one like that. I had the vinyl version, but this one was better painted. It was rubber. So I figured, you know what? I'll put a bid in for it and whatever, thinking that, you know, somebody's going to outbid me to the point where I'm not going to even try to battle them for it. But truth be told, nobody bidded on it. And that was way back in 2013. So, and of course, if that were to go up on eBay now, like if I were to sell mine right now, I know I can at least get a G for it.
Yeah.
But honestly, I paid less than $500 for it shipped at the time.
Wow.
But yeah, that one, yeah, that is my holy grail. In other words, and I said this many times before, if a fire breaks out in my house, my wife and kids and dog go out first, obviously. But that one is making that before everybody else. I'm sorry, Kong. I'm sorry, Shen. I'm sorry, Gaia, Biolante, Legion, GMK, Megazord. I'm so sorry, but that one is the that's my holy grail. So yeah, that's it. Okay.
Sorry, not sorry.
This thing's amazing.
Man, I just love it. Every time I look at it, I just get this certain urge to watch Mothra vs. Godzilla. I just can't help myself. And he just, you know, it's just, and the fact that it's rubber, and David can attest to this because he has the rubber one too.
I do.
It transcends from being a kaiju collectible to something that looks like an actual movie prop that was used in the movie.
Yes,
yeah,
indeed. It does.
I'm so jealous.
So
it's a unique piece. It's
it is.
Piece for sure.
And the fact that it's rubber, knowing that the Godzilla suit was rubber,
right?
You know, it just drives home the fact that once again, that's like my holy grail. I'm so glad that I got it. Which leads me to my fourth question. All right, what are your favorite toy companies that you collect from that make up your collections?
So I won't take a long time to answer this question. It's actually, even though I could rattle off every single toy company in my collection, the bulk of my stuff, I would say, belongs to X Plus, M1, Marmot, and Bandai. Although recently I've been really impressed with Bandai Premium and everything that they've been putting out.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I like you guys, like some of you guys, I definitely started down the Bandai route, and I have a ton of Bandai figures, even though I mostly don't collect those anymore. I collect X Plus stuff and the soft vinyl figures from, you know, M1 and Marmot and you know, all those guys. So those are pretty much what I collect these days. And rarely do I stray from the main ones, but every once in a while I'll find something that I just have to have. How about you, Dave?
Yeah, I'm going to just agree with you and not take up too much time on this. So basically, X Plus, M1, Marmot, Toy Graph. I used to love Pilot Ace when they were still around. They have some really beautiful sculpts and great figures that are pretty sought after these days. I'm going to throw Kyoto in there too, because I got started in my modeling with Kyoto and Billiken kits. That was sort of my gateway right after Bandai to my model building journey. Started with Billiken and then moved to Kyoto. So along with what you said, I'm going to add those two in there. And yeah, that's about it. How about you, John Ruffin?
Yeah, right now as it stands, X Plus, Go X Plus makes a large, probably the largest portion of my figures for sure. I love the cast figurines. They're a little bit more expensive, but they create some wonderful scenes that no one else seems to produce. But something a little odd, because I love collecting Godzilla books and kaiju books and Ultraman, whatever I can find, especially the older books from the 60s and 70s. But companies like Shogakukan and Kodansha and others like that, Hobby Japan book books, and are one of my favorites. And Bandai, of course, is where it all started, and Mattel from the 70s.
Nice.
And I think that means we're going to go hear from Christine and hear who some of her brands are.
Polygraph, absolutely, hands down, my favorite brand to collect. I love Polygraph figures. I also like collecting M1, Marmot, Giga Brain, Hazawa Gumi, X Plus, SH Monster. Those are pretty much the. Oh, US Toys. Those make up the bulk of my collection here.
And Leslie, what about you, man? What do you collect mostly?
I got my headphones off. I'm about to show y'all something. Y'all can hear me still well, right? Somewhat.
You're good.
Yes, I'm mostly in the X Plus. I just love the suit accurate stuff. So yeah, my expertise, lists my the companies that I go for is I go basically one or two companies, basically, or one or two people, I should say. One is X Plus, of course, and number two is I'm going to give him a huge shout out in case he is watching, who have people that have ordered from him. I got custom stuff from him. His name is Mark Sang-Yang, and most recently he made me something so awesome that I got to share with y'all for a few seconds. Hold on 1 second. Come here, girl. Come here, big girl. There you go, big girl. There you go. Bear with me, ladies and gentlemen, but he made me this giant custom-made Biolante, rose form Biolante. And yeah, he has made me so many great figures over the years, where it's Kong, multiple Godzillas. But this right here is my most recent project I got from him. She stands at 26 inches tall. I got her so I can put her with my X Plus Gigantic series, Godzilla 1989. And she towers over him, obviously, because that's how it was in the film. So yeah, this is like this is awesome. I already have a personal figure of the year, and it's X Plus. But if that wasn't it, this will be it. But yeah, hit him Mark. Yeah, he can definitely make his kaiju dreams come true.
Yeah,
all right,
I've been seeing his stuff posted for a few years. It's really a fantastic custom work.
Yes.
Yeah, he's awesome.
Great stuff, Mark.
Okay. Yeah, she's heavy. All right. Now, let's go to my fifth question. What are your individual focus and prerequisites when it comes to hunting kaiju collectible pieces? Movie suit accuracy, stylized multicolor customizations, specific sizes, etc.
Well, basically what I initially look for in these kinds of things, are suit accuracy. I think that's why I fell in love with the Bandai stuff. I think for the most part, almost everything they made up until a certain point looked like it was the most suit accurate figure you could get, without getting a model kit, which of course, way more accurate, way more detailed. And so when X Plus stuff first started coming out in the early 2000s, and or actually I should say it's super late 1990s, their stuff drew me in with its highly detailed, highly accurate sculpts. And that was back when they were doing like the carded figures. The stuff they do these days blows all of that out of the water, and it has totally made me sort of refocus on what it is that I feel is important from a collecting standpoint. And so while suit accuracy is amazing, a lot of times nowadays I'm going towards the stylized vinyl, although I'll still grab a X Plus figure every once in a while when it comes out. But the stylized vinyl, I'm finding much more joy being sparked in my life these days. And how about you, Dave?
It's kind of interesting. My collecting journey has sort of gone through many stages. As you mentioned, first was Bandai, because they were the quintessential figures to have as far as being accurate to the monsters. And then I started getting into garage kits, Billiken, Kyoto, as I mentioned before. And I sort of was kind of uber focused on suit accurate, as much suit accuracy as I could find. But nowadays, I'm kind of like very eclectic. I like a little bit of everything. And there's nothing specific, but I know it when I see it. Kyle, I think you have a couple of clips of my collection so you can kind of see the diversity that I have. I love stylized. I love colorful. I love suit accuracy. Basically, whatever strikes my fancy. I definitely am not a completist, but yeah, that's sort of my X Plus model kit suit accuracy section. And I think there might be a photo, but if not, just look behind me. You can see this is my soft vinyl sort of stylized, colorful figures, M1, Marmot, that kind of thing. I do like the cast figures, as John Ruffin said. They've come up with some pretty, avant-garde, unique, interesting pieces that you would never see anywhere else. But yeah, I mean, a little bit of everything. And I think I find most joy in things that were given to me as a gift, or things that I actually picked up myself from the shelves in Japan. Not knocking, buying things, from the internet, which I do all the time, but the things that are given to me or I pick myself seem to hold a special place in my collection. So that's about it for me. How about you, John?
Yeah, I would say similar things like you, David. But I've been driven really by collecting stylized, excuse me, not stylized, suit accurate figures. My Japanese collection started with the Bandai Mechagodzilla right here. And, for me to first see Mechagodzilla again at Rocket Ships and Accessories down in downtown Philadelphia at that time, it was like, oh my God, I can't believe it, Mechagodzilla. And it was, at that time, it was like perfect. I mean, like for me, right out of the film. But over time, when I realized X Plus was creating Godzilla, incredible Godzilla figures, they were the suit accurate pieces that I wanted. I don't know, although I have some. I'm not, I look at it, and if I do it, it's going to be messed up. So, I think I have almost at least 90 X Plus figures. The only thing, they're dark, and my shelves are dark. My room is dark because they're, charcoal gray, etc. But I love that because I love trying to recreate those iconic moments from Godzilla movies when I do my toy photography. From time to time, I'll get stylized figures and to add color. And there's some that I one day hope to have, but that's where the bulk of my suit accurate.
Cool. Can I interject something real quick in there? Basically, what we're all saying is X Plus figures are that bridge between garage kits and toys. They're basically pre-assembled, expertly painted, pre-painted model kits. I mean, that's the bottom line, and that's the appeal of these figures. If you like suit accuracy, you basically take it out of the box and you stick the tail on, and voila, you have an amazing piece. So people ask me a lot about, how do I feel about doing slight modifications or touch-ups or things like that? And I always say it's no big deal because I always see them as pre-assembled, pre-painted model kits. And to go back and sort of deconstruct to any level, to make it exactly the way I want it, it's a no-brainer for me. So anyway, how about you, Mr. Chambers?
Well, let's hear. Let's just quickly.
Oh,
hear
sorry, Christine.
About.
Sorry. I'm so sorry.
It's all good. She's not here to complain about it, right?
I'm sorry, Christine. Oh, she'll yell at me later.
She
has
to say. Yeah, exactly. We have plenty of time for yelling.
Oh yeah.
I used to be super into the realistic figures when I first started collecting, like the X Plus and Aztec Monster Arts. I wanted those figures that look like they just like walked right out of the movie scene and onto my shelf. But the last few years, I've been 100% into stylized figures, the Sofubi. I love it. The bright colors, the cute sculpts, the glitter. I mean, how can you go wrong with like everything going on? And then smaller size too, so you can fit a whole bunch more onto a shelf and make a really colorful, like eye-catching, fun display.
Yes, ma'am.
She's not wrong.
She's not wrong.
She's
Nope.
not wrong. You know, the size is I actually had an issue with the 30 centimeter X Plus figures. David, you know about this earlier
Oh
this
yeah,
year.
I do.
I was like, they're taking up too much room. So I sold a bunch of those and I reclaimed a whole bunch of shelf space for the 25 centimeter series. So size matters.
It's those darn tails. Those darn tails.
It is.
No.
It is those darn tails.
I'm so out of room. Have figures on the floor. Not good.
Yeah. So tell us some tales, Leslie, about your collecting.
My prerequisites are basically it has to look exactly how it was in the film. It has to be suit accurate, even though there are some exceptions that I will go after. Like, for example, the gigantic GMK. We all know that wasn't in the film. You know what I'm saying? But sculpt wise, it looks awesome. It's an amazing figure. Aside from that, you know, there are I mostly try to collect the bigger stuff. You know, my favorite line of figures is, of course, the X Plus Gigantic series. But there are some 25 centimeters that I had to have, like Biollante, Legion, of course, the multiple King Ghidras. But mostly my expertise is suit accurate. Now, as far as like colors, it has to look exactly how it looked in the film. But once again, there's also some exceptions to that rule. Like Varan or Varan, however you say it. The X Plus versions, aside from the one that came out, I think this year, the black and white crawling version. I actually had the original brown version. And of course, that's not how it was in the film. But I do like the brown on that one. You know what I mean? And I have been eyeing that King Ghidra 64 Rick that came out this year with the multicolors on it. So I wouldn't mind having that in my possession. So, but mostly my prerequisites is suit accuracy. And for me, the bigger the figure, the better. Now, let's go to question number 6. What makes you so proud to be a kaiju collector?
What makes me so proud to be a kaiju collector is that collecting is basically what I consider to be just one part of being a fan, and you know, a fan of this genre specifically. And so once the big giant radioactive door was open to me, I sort of realized how much more awesome like the entirety of this genre is. And so collecting was almost like the doorway to get me more into the films, to get me more into everything about the films.
Amen.
How about you, Dave?
Yeah, basically that, and also the opportunities that I've had over the years to do some pretty incredible things after meeting you and a hugely awesome group of guys at G-Fest and online, that some of these people I talk to like on a daily or weekly basis. It's kind of incredible that liking a giant radioactive monster movie from Japan has opened all of these doors for me. And you know, I think you have a video, a couple photos. One of the main things, and I think the number one thing, is going to Japan with you for your Hail to the King project. I mean, that to me was like full circle for, you know, a little Godzilla fan, you know, who was a kid in Pine Beach, New Jersey, you know, dreaming of going to Japan someday and actually sitting underneath that giant mural, talking to you, you know, about, you know, our passion for the films. That it was just an amazing experience. Also being, you know, featured in John Ruffin's My Kaiju magazine. That is a huge honor and something I'm extremely proud of. And, you know, it actually was something that sort of a test for me, because I am working on currently making my own kaiju photo book of my work. But the photos I have in John's issue are sort of a sample of what is to come. So I got to say, awesome. You know, it's the great people, it's you guys, and having the opportunity to do this and share my passion with, with like-minded people. That's pretty much it. How about you, John?
That's awesome, David. You said a lot of how I feel and what makes me so proud. I'll just add, for me, is just being a part of the community that we have, particularly in the Godzilla fandom, and to come to know, the directors, staff, cinematographers who made these favorite films of ours, and to be able to now show appreciation, and because they shaped my childhood, our childhood,
yes, they did.
our lives, and it's because of that influence that I learned, right and wrong, and growing up, watching Ultraman and Godzilla, and got a sense of that, and my work that I do today as a graphic designer is so heavily influenced by this. And so my collecting life has just allowed me to show some appreciation, I think, back to them who made collecting so special, made these movies, these wonderful films that so much changed and shaped my life.
Really well said.
All right, so let's hear what Miss Christine has to say about what makes her proud to be a collector.
Definitely has to be the community for me. I have met so many amazing people and made wonderful, like, lifelong friends now, and just insane memories. Just the experiences that I've had meeting everyone and working now for the convention. It's definitely like a huge family, and all of you mean a lot to me. I mean, I don't know where I would be right now if I hadn't have gotten into the the community we all built together. It's just like this huge joy to be able to share in something with other people that are also passionate about the things that you are, and just people being so helpful and so kind. It's really the best part about this is the people and the community.
Nice.
Well said.
What about you, Leslie? What makes you the most proud to be a collector?
Two things. First, like y'all have said earlier, is meeting you guys, meeting like-minded people that share your same passion for collecting these things. I have developed some great friendships, some lifelong friendships and relationships, with starting with all of y'all, basically, and a lot of other people that I probably wouldn't have if I wasn't a collector. I mean, it just shows that, just when you think you're alone, that you like this monster, there are plenty of other people out there that share your same love and passion about it. So it's the relationships that I have with y'all, because I don't have that many people locally that likes this stuff. Maybe one person, maybe, but it's not like we hang out every single week. But with y'all, by me being on social media, I could contact y'all and have conversations with y'all on a regular basis. And that's always been like the most important thing to me, especially when you go into G-Fest. Of course, it's good to see the panels and the celebrities. And of course, the dealer's room is off the chain. But mostly I go there just to see y'all, because I always look at G-Fest as like a family reunion that happens once a year. And that's what makes me look forward to going to G-Fest. But basically, it's the relationships. But secondly, on a personal level, my collection room is upstairs. And by me working a lot during the week, I don't have time to come up the steps and look at my room and blah, blah, blah. But when I do find time to do so, every single piece I have in my collection is due to hard work. All the miles, all the loads, everything that I've done in my job, I have accumulated, I was able to get the money to get these figures, where at one time I could even afford one figure back in the day. So to come up here and see what I have accomplished collecting wise, because I bust my behind and I work hard, it just shows that these are good products of hard work. So that what makes me very proud to be a kaiju collector.
Awesome.
Yes, they are.
Now, which leads me to our next question, number 7. What one piece of advice would you give to a new collector wanting to get into the hobby?
Oh man, I hope your luck is good, is the first thing I'd have to say, because unfortunately the genre is sort of at an all-time high in terms of popularity right now, I would say.
Agreed.
And that of course means that we're getting way more things coming out, but there's way more eyes on the things coming out. So
That's true.
I guess the more accurate thing to say was in terms of advice would be patient and be informed. Don't go out and grab something just because you found it. Do a little bit of research. Say, is that the best price I could get for it? Is that the price I want to pay for it? I'm a admitted cheapskate. So I guess, yeah, be an informed cheapskate. That's my advice. David, I know you've got to have some good advice for the guys out here.
I think I have the best advice that anybody's going to say right here. Now, hold on a minute. 5 words. Subscribe to Collect All Monsters. And any questions you have, we will do. We're not up here pretending to be experts, but what we're here to educate, to share our passion and our love for these toys and films and everything associated with this genre. So please subscribe and watch our show. And in the meantime, when we're not on, you can, join some of the collecting groups online and just ask a lot of questions. Don't be afraid to ask questions.
My advice would be to jump in, collect what you love, enjoy the life experience and the journey of collecting all monsters. Never feel embarrassed. It's a little bit more than one. And remember, if you're young and you get to that point, I don't want to collect toys anymore or figures, because I'm not, I'm getting older. That's fine, but remember, it's adults who make these toys that we love the most. And last piece of advice: when you see it, and you better get it, because you may not ever see it again, or maybe a very long time. So if you really want it and you were looking for it, don't sleep on it. And that's my advice.
Excellent advice. We've all been burned by not doing that. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so I believe that means it's time for us to hear what Miss Christine has to say. What kind of advice would she give collectors coming into this hobby?
I would say research. Definitely do your research. There's so many different lines out there to collect, and a lot of them are getting reissued, so it's becoming more easily available to new collectors coming into the hobby. And have fun too. Like, don't compare yourself or what you're collecting to what other people might have, because it doesn't matter. Just collect what you enjoy and that makes you feel happy. Another thing I would say you would need is patience, because for some of those harder figures to find, there's some companies that don't no longer make certain sculpts or color variants, and there's like that one that you're looking for that was made like 10 years ago. It's been out of production. You definitely need patience when it comes to looking for certain things. I mean, there's a ton of different places. You can ask people for help and just wait it out. Eventually, it will show up. I know I've been through it, especially collecting toy graphs. There's been quite a few figures I never thought would come around. And eventually, they'll pop up. And sometimes I've actually had to pass on some that I really wanted because the price was just too high for it. And later on down the road, maybe a few months, that it'll show up again for something I could afford. So, save your money, be patient, and just find what it is that you really enjoy collecting.
Follow your passions, everybody.
Yes.
That's right.
Leslie, what about you, man?
I guess the best piece of advice I could give anybody is really just to echo what Christine just said, is really just to have fun. I think sometimes that gets lost within our community. I think some people are more enamored about getting this figure first before anybody else, or having more than what somebody else may have, and not realizing that we're all in this together for the same reason. We're here to have a good time, to have fun, to fellowship with each other. And I think sometimes pettiness will rear its ugly head sometimes. So I think to a kaiju collector newbie, try to avoid all that and just have fun. I think once the fun is gone, there's really no point of doing this or collecting anymore. And also collect what you can afford. Don't go overboard with spending and stuff like that. What you can do financially, what you can't do. Of course, don't sacrifice, stuff that you need, for as like mortgage, food, water, just to get a Godzilla figure. These
or your relationship, right? I've heard a bunch of people like that. Look, don't tell my wife I bought this gigantic Godzilla figure.
Yeah, so So just collect what you can afford, and most of all, above anything else, just have fun. Just have fun with it, because that's what these figures or collecting these figures are all about, having fun. Now, let's go to the next question. What resources, online and or otherwise, would we recommend to collectors in acquiring these kaiju collectible pieces?
Well, so for me, I actually, I think a bunch of us are probably going to say this. clubtokyo.org has been a phenomenal resource. I mean, basically going back to pretty much when I started considering myself to be a collector. So I would say check out clubtokyo.org. I like to include Facebook in this just because it's the Facebook groups that we found each other on Facebook groups, and that's how
That's true.
I got in touch with a lot of fellow collectors, and that's how I got a lot of information from fellow collectors about things that I wanted to collect. And so while just saying Facebook is a little too nebulous for my answer, I would say that just doing your research, using Facebook for research, using collectallmonsters.com, of course, and Collect All Monsters TV at all of our associated handles. But actually, Club Tokyo is the other one I was just saying. Like, it's an invaluable resource, even if it's not always the most up to date. It's like amazing. David?
Yeah, I'm going to just echo what you said. The internet, collecting groups. If you can read Japanese, great. If you can't, you can still look at the pictures on Hobby Japan magazine. If you live by Kinokuniya bookstore, that's where I started getting, like, knowing that things are even out there, skimming through the pages of Hobby Japan magazine. What else? Hobby Search, you can go to them and you can actually see what's available to buy. And they have an English speaking site that you can sort of, navigate pretty easily. Mandarake is another one if you wanted to see what's out there. Sadly, I think Kyle or Leslie alluded to this, that everybody has discovered these already. So the chances of getting a bargain are slim to none. But they do show you things that are sold out too, which is kind of a tease. But you'll be able to see what you could have got if you're up at 3 a.m.
Good for research, for sure.
Yeah, it's very good for research, because I've done research on that. But I think Club Tokyo has been my number one over the years when I first started doing this. So just the internet and like I said, don't ever be afraid to ask questions of collectors who've been around the block for a couple of years, and we'll all be glad to help you out. How about you, John?
I would echo and ditto to everything you guys have already said. Growing up, there were few shops locally, but I mentioned my friend Eric and I, we make a journey to New York, New Jersey, every shop in Philly. We do it on Saturday. So if you have a local shop, please support them.
Totally.
That's really important. I mean, we have just vivid memories of wonderful shops that we lost over the years, and so support them. There's some great online resources. I do have a list on my website, mykaiju.com/links of a lot of, that may be helpful to you. But, I use Mandarake quite frequently. I would recommend Amazon Japan as well.
All right, yeah. Yahoo Japan.
Yeah, Hobby Search, and then Hobby Link Japan, Amy. There's just so many. I think there's fromjapan.co.jp, and talking on Facebook social media and seeing what's there, and also personal shoppers, that are available. I'm grateful to them, and that's it for me.
Actually, let's throw one more in there. kaijuaddicts.com. John Stanowski has a very comprehensive list of pretty much every X Plus figure ever released, and the specs and the year it was released. So I found myself referring to that many times over the years. So that's a really good source if you're specifically looking for X Plus specs and what's out there. So so that's kaijuaddicts.com. Yep.
And flossygifts.com.
And Flossy Gifts, where you can actually buy the stuff that you've seen on his thing. So, yes, sir.
In addition to Kaiju Addicts, I also feel like I should mention somebody else. But Leslie, do you actually want to go, man?
Yeah, I do have a couple. Since I'm mostly into X Plus, I'll just stick to the X Plus stuff. Of course, if you want to get into the X Plus figures, please join the X Plus Collectors Facebook group or club or campfire session or wherever the heck we call ourselves these days. That way you could be in the know of what's coming out. Because mostly we're in the know first about what's coming out before it gets spread all over the internet. You know what I'm saying? Because we do have at least one or two people that actually work for X Plus that are in the group. So that's always a great thing. What David just said, Kaiju Addicts. I also deal and recommend Hobby Search, like what John said. Flossy's Gifts. Also, awesomecollector.com. I've been getting a few figures from Jason Welling. Also want to give a huge shout out to Tyler Boots Carlson. He has helped me get some Ricks because, quite frankly, the new Rick site has been going through some issues as of late, but still. But those are the resources that I would recommend if you want to get into S Plus indefinitely.
I should also throw out kaijubattle.net.
Oh, really?
Mike Farah's website. And also we should totally hear what Miss Christine has to say about this too.
That's right.
Club Tokyo, 100% all day, every day. That is my number one go-to when I am looking for any sort of figure. Because they have almost every figure mentioned down there. Color variants. I go there multiple times a month looking for different color variants that I might like, or just looking up information on a figure. Also, there's tons of people you could ask in the community, in the different groups that are online. I mean, you've got the Godzilla Collectors group, the X Plus Kaiju Collectors group. There's just so many resources and tons of people willing to help you in the fandom. Just ask us. We'll help you out.
Oh,
Fantastic.
Yes, we will.
All right, Leslie, what's our next question on the docket?
all right. We got two more questions, and then that should be it, I think. But number 9, what is your favorite personal kaiju collectible purchase, acquisition thus far this year, and what are we most looking forward to getting later on in the next year?
So, first up, I'm super angry at you for asking this question because in order to answer it, I had to write down every single thing that I bought in 2019. Leslie, I didn't think I spent that much money on kaiju toys, but I was wrong. And even though I could choose several figures as my sort of top buy for 2019, the one that I just keep coming back to was a Wonder Festival exclusive. I think this came out for Summer Wonder Festival, and basically Medicom produced a that's really bright. Produced a Gigan that looks very similar to the old vintage die-cast Gigan. And so when I saw this Gigan show up, because people that know me know that I love this monster. But when I saw this show up, I was like, I've got to have that. And I don't see a lot of people talking about it, but I absolutely love the
beautiful.
The look to it. The fact that it's a vinyl toy versus a die-cast toy, but still they have the similar design. I love it. So yeah, there's my top pick for 2019.
Dope.
David?
So Leslie, I'm really mad at you for this question too. Like Kyle, I had to compile a list of what I bought this year. I didn't write it down. I actually took pictures of it. And Kyle, I think you have one of everything I bought.
Yes.
And so please put that on the screen so you can see how crazy I am.
All right. 1 second.
I thought that I was cutting back too, but yeah, not really. No. So that's the majority. There's still more that aren't listed on there. The main things that I purchased or was gifted last year. And although there's so many awesome things in there, I have to go with the Knott's storyboard Red Godzilla.
Oh,
Now,
yeah.
of course, there's a little story behind that. As many of you know, Kyle, Keith, and I went to Japan last February for the Hokkaido Snow Festival. And we kind of made a little, yeah, well, ultimately that's it. Yes, indeed. Ultimately, we made a mistake on the dates and we were off by a week. So when Wonderfest was going on, we would actually be in Hokkaido at the festival. And to make matters worse or better, our dear friend Jay Davis, who sometimes will help us acquire some of these figures at shows, we invited him to come with us, he and his family to come with us to Hokkaido. So we really kind of left ourselves with no opportunity to get this figure in Japan. So I think Kyle actually did get one while we were in Hokkaido online or something like that. He can tell you a little bit more about that. But it took me a much longer time to pick one up, and I paid a little bit more than I should have for it. But I've always been partial to that storyboard, original concept, very Japanese looking, dragon-like image of Godzilla. So to have that represented in a figure was something that I was totally stoked to get and to ultimately have. So yeah, that's my choice. And yep, that's it.
Brilliant. Well, I have a couple acquisitions. Well, the first is acquisition, but it was many things. Again, you think through all the things that you get, big, small. Most of the items I got this year were from X Plus, I think. But the most special was completing a book collection of mine that I didn't realize over the years I was building. I had the honor of meeting and interviewing Masami Yamada-san. And I didn't realize back in the 90s, mid-90s, I got one of his books. Is a Godzilla diorama book. And this, along with about another almost 20 other books I have from his collection, from the books he worked on. This one is beautiful dioramas. And inside, I highly recommend this. You can find this on Mandarake. And there were other books I had from the 80s. And I realized, oh my goodness, his contribution to Godzilla and Ultraman is tremendous, and more fans should know about it. But I started to add more to my book collection this year from Yamada-san's work. And one of the earliest books that I got from Rocket Ships and Accessories was this one, and did not know. Now that I read Japanese, I'm a better reader than speaker. I can just go and shelf full of his work. And lastly, this has been a special year for me in all kinds of ways, but probably the item that means most to me wasn't an acquisition, was gifted to me, was X Plus Mechagodzilla soft vinyl, part of the series from X Plus. Really, that's kind of a homage to the Aurora model kits. But what was special for me was opportunity to do the toy photography for the box. And so to have a little place in Godzilla history, and to have the honor to maybe one day do some box art that'll be on your shelf or in your collection is really special. A special thanks to G-san of X Plus, Matsubata, and especially to Jeremy Souls of Summit Kaiju for making all that happen, making my dreams come true, something I never dreamed of 5 years ago. Oh, awesome, Carl. So this
I've got one too.
Really?
Over there. Yep.
Oh.
Absolutely.
So
I mean, we got to support our own, and
it's true.
It's a beautiful, box, and it does, represent and mirror the awesome box art that I fell in love with back in the 70s. So to me, it's super special, and I'm so glad that you were able to do that, and hopefully there will be more to come.
And thank you. And so I'm just grateful for that this year. There's so many other things that I could be mentioned, especially from X Plus, but they were the special things. I guess Christine's time.
Yeah, I should. We should find out what she thought was her favorite purchase of 2019.
Okay, probably not a surprise to anybody, but my purchase from this year was definitely the gigantic X Plus Godzilla 1989. He is so perfect, and he's so handsome. I mean, X Plus got every detail on him perfectly. I absolutely love this thing. I was so ecstatic when they first announced it because I had been dying for like a gigantic representation of him because to me, like this, when I think of Godzilla, this is the suit that I think of. I mean, come on, it's like my favorite suit from my favorite movie of all time. And the figure that I'm looking forward to next year is I'm hoping that we're going to be getting a Rose Violante, probably in the 25 centimeter line. I mean, she needs, come on, she needs some loving now, and she would fit in perfectly, I think, with the large Monster Series Violante that came out 2 years ago. So I'm really, really hoping that we'll get an announcement for that next year.
All right. And Leslie, what about you, man?
First and foremost, John, thank you for not being mad at me. Hey, 2 out of 3 ain't bad. I mean, 1 out of 2 ain't bad. So I mean, I don't know. But honestly, I was mad at myself. I was mad at myself because if we're talking just strictly X Plus, that's a no-brainer. You know, one shines above the rest. But when you factor in everything that I purchased this past year, it came down to 3. Top 3. It came down between the gigantic Godzilla 1989, the giant Prime 1 Gamera 1999, yeah, and of course the Mark Sanyang Rose Violante that y'all saw earlier. Those 3 are like my top purchases. But if I have to pick one, I'm sorry, Violante, but your big brother got you on this one. So I agree. I agree with Christine. The X Plus Gigantic Series Godzilla 1989 is my favorite purchase of this year. That figure is so amazing. In some angles, it kind of looks like the 91 just a little bit, which is my favorite version of Godzilla from the Heisei period, followed closely by the 89. But that figure is awesome. That figure is so amazing. What I'm most looking forward to, I think John can agree with me on that, is I hope they make it, and they better make it, the X Plus Gigantic Series Mecha Godzilla. Y'all better bring that thing out come March or April of next year. That's all I got to say about that. Woo.
Oh, I think Kyle and John and I forgot to say what we expect, what we're looking forward to. Yeah. So let's do that real quick. Kyle, what are you looking forward to most for 2020?
Oh man. Well, I guess the first thing I'm looking forward to is actually this new 25 centimeter Gamera 1999 that got announced from X Plus. I've already pre-ordered it. I'm a huge fan of the Gamera series, and this one is awesome because he's holding he's got the burning fist version, so it's got like the clear transparent hand, and then in his other hand, he's holding like the gross stuff that came out of Iris that's got the little Ayana inside. So I'm looking forward to that for sure.
That's cool. That's really cool. For myself, it's pretty much down to the X Plus 30 centimeter, 29 centimeter, whatever it's going to be. Sakai 1984 Godzilla. It is going to be the quintessential 1984 figure put out there to date, aside from the model kits. And I'm looking forward to having a really amazing 84 represented in my collection. And I know there's a lot of friends out there who belong to Club 84, and I'm sure they're all super, super stoked for this next release. So yeah, definitely. How about you, John?
I remember when that got announced, I remember seeing it and just being like, oh man, people have been asking this for release for years.
They have.
Yeah.
And I don't even think John has to answer. I think we already know what it is. It's going to be the gigantic Mecha Godzilla. And although I don't have any more room for it, I think I can squeeze him in because he doesn't have a long tail.
Oh, you make room on that shelf.
Oh yeah, okay, I'll do it.
You build a secret hideout
Thank you.
hangar for him to sit in, obviously.
Well, I do have my rocks outside. He could live out there.
Oh yeah, there you go, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, you stole my thunder. That's it.
Sorry, I didn't
And
mean to take your.
I was
but-
waiting for us to come back around to say that, because that,
That's going to be hard to pass up on, I think.
Yes, and now the next question, there's a compliment that must go with him, and I'll get to that later.
Okay.
All right. Question number 10. If you were president / head sculptor of one of these kaiju toy companies, X Plus, Prime One, SH Monster Arts, NECA, Marmot, etc., what is the one kaiju in any scale that you would choose to make?
All right.
I like this question. Now, this question I like.
I like this question too, and I think that in order to do this properly, I'm going to have to actually share this tab, because for me, this is like I've seen this kit
Oh
in
God!
person.
Yeah,
This is the
wow.
Honey Bones Godzilla kit, and I know somebody who had this at one point. Sorry, it's not like the best photo in there, but basically, I think the Honey Bones Godzilla kit should be reissued as a gigantic figure from X Plus. G-san, I know you're watching. I know you're listening to what we say. Hear me out, buddy. This is going to be the biggest sell for you of all time. And I might be overselling it, but that's because I really want it.
I
No,
want
you're-
it. I want it.
You're not over.
I want it.
You're so not overselling it. I want it to. That's a great choice. I love that choice. That's fantastic.
And if
Let's make it
G,
happen.
if G doesn't want to play that game, which fine, I'd also gladly accept a 1-to-1 scale life-size replica of the Oxygen Destroyer. Thank you very much.
Absolutely.
I love both of those. Both of
David,
those are fantastic.
throw us your if you were in charge.
If I was in charge, everybody would get a TV. You get a TV. You get a TV. No. If I were in charge, I would make more representations of this guy.
Yes.
Oh yes.
The storyboard original concept, or one of the original concepts of the 1954 Godzilla. I am so enamored with that design. Which explains why I chose the not storyboard as my figure of the year, my favorite figure of the year. And I would just love. I actually did get one in a Hashimoto resin model kit that is beautiful. I don't want to take him down. He's kind of heavy and he's really big. But I would love to see soft vinyl versions of him. I would love to see X Plus do a version of him. Any scale. I'll take any scale. 25, 28, 30. Gigantic, I know, is a lot to ask because there's so many ahead of it in line. But actually, they did one. Pilot Ace did one. That's
beautiful.
It's kind of similar to that, and I would just love to see more of that particular design come to us in the future. So, whoever's listening, let's make that happen. Yep. Thank you.
How about you, John?
Well, if there's a gigantic Mechagodzilla 1974, there must be a gigantic Godzilla 1974. We really need a 74. I know that's going to be tough.
Well,
it's got to be done right.
That's right. It's got to be done right.
Now, that's my dream, but it's got to be right. Now, with that said, I would love to I think this should be done as a series of like Toho legends, human figures from the directors, Subaraya-san, for whom I wear this hat, all the, to the actors. I would love to see props made of the cameras and the clapper, and you could put the figures right, with them. And so you can build up what goes behind the scenes as your figures are out on the shelves. Just, I think some form of homage. I would love to see that happen.
Wow, these are all so fantastic. I would die for all of these. It's crazy. It's totally crazy.
John, did you ever see the Subaraya toy set that they made?
Yeah. And I kind of missed out on it when it was affordable. Yeah.
Yeah, that was cool.
Yeah.
So I got to throw one more thing that I think I told a couple people here that I want to see is if X Plus would release a box set of their Rick extras.
Oh yes.
Can you imagine?
So good. That'd be cool.
Like we get the King Caesar statue, we get the ape from Mechagodzilla, we get the oxygen destroyer, we get the giant the cockroach or whatever it is.
Yes.
I mean, that to me would, and that guy too.
Godzilla Tower.
Godzilla Tower. I mean, so many things.
Or Hedra's lunch.
And the sculpts are already out there. They just need to be reproduced and put into a box set, and they would sell like hotcakes. I'm pretty positive. I mean, I can see myself buying several boxes alone. So,
absolutely.
Sorry, I had to put that out there too.
No, that's it.
All right.
Do we have Christine?
We do have Christine. Let's see here. I think, this is what she has to say.
Okay, any toy company, I would start Toy Graph back up and make a Rose Biolante and Biolante set. And it'd be crazy colorful and bright and sparkly, full of glitter, tinsel, you name it. I'm throwing it all out there on it. I think that Biolante doesn't really have a lot of representation in the toy figure community. And she's one of the very few female kaiju that are out there. Definitely she needs more representation. And I would absolutely love to make a set like that. It'd be a dream come true.
All right. Well, that's Christine's dream come true. What about you, Leslie?
First off, Christine, if you're watching, if you want a Rose Form Biolante, I know a guy. Holla at me. But if I was in charge of X Plus, or if I could get into G's ear, I want to see an X Plus gigantic series. That's the thing. John, you stole my answer. I'm mad at you for 2 seconds. So you stole my answer. I want to say a gigantic 74. But you know what? Since you already said that, you know what? I'm going to jump ahead 10 years later. I want a gigantic series Godzilla 1984. That's what I want to see. Rick Boy option. Give me an N-scale Super X so I can put them together so they can fight each other. So that's what I want to see. A gigantic series Godzilla 1984. If I was in charge.
All right, man. Where are we at, Leslie? That was your last legit question from the 10 questions. But
that was it. We have a bonus question, but if you want to hold off on that and save it for the next episode, we can, or we can go into it now. It's up to you.
Let's blaze through the bonus question.
Okay. All right. And the final question. What does it mean being on Collect All Monsters? What being on this endeavor means to us individually?
So I'm happy to start this. Collect All Monsters means a lot to me because, in my opinion, this is the next iteration of my next creative process, my next creative project. And honestly, if you walk into this room, there's a movie screen, there's a DVD shelf, but the thing that draws everyone's eye is the collection. And I mean, like you guys, I sit here sometimes and I look at these shelves and they literally make me feel happy. I go, oh man, God, what a gorgeous figure that is. I'm so glad I have that in my collection. And that's the kind of thing that I think a lot of people out there in the world also feel. And they're like, we were mentioning earlier about community being important. I'm also looking forward to the community that we build as Collect All Monsters, as the crew, and what comes in the future from that. I took the Kaiju Cast very seriously, and I want to bring that same serious level of professionalism and production quality to this project. And I'm just really looking forward to seeing. I'm just looking forward to the future. Like whatever we end up doing and whatever this morphs into, I think it's a winning combination right out of the gate. How about you, David?
Awesome. Well, if you might notice, I'm wearing my Kaiju Cast shirt, and I'm wearing this in tribute to the fine men and women who, for the last 10 years, have done an amazing job with Kyle's first project, the Kaiju Cast podcast. And I just hope that, I do justice to you guys and all the hard work and awesome stuff that you have done in this next evolution of the Kaiju Cast. And I'm just honored and thrilled and excited and all of the above, and looking forward to opportunities in the future that this may bring. And I'm just happy to be here.
I'm elated to be a part. Thank you, Kyle, so much. I'm honored to have been invited and to be a part with you guys and with Christine, and what this is going to be. It's I look forward to just sharing what I'm passionate about in collecting, and you all's passion gives me so much energy as well, and motivation, and I appreciate that. I look forward to just the synergy, if you like, that will exist as we, hearing David go back to the memories. It just stirs up even more, and having a platform to be able to share that and what's going on now, to hear from you guys, and it's just an honor to be with you. So I just look forward to what it will become. And thank you, Carl, for trailblazing with Kaiju Cast, and even at that time you had me on a little interview about Shin Godzilla. So thank you so much, and it's a truly great honor to be on Collect All Monsters.
Well, thank you for being here, both of you guys, and you too, Leslie.
Oh yeah, no problem. I guess for me is this really is like a dream come true for me, because I've always looked at the Kaiju Cast as like the best podcast, devoted to Godzilla. And I've always looked at Kyle and his co-hosts over the years and his production of the show as a very professional, top-notch, just perfect show that I've always wanted to be a part of, whether it's to be, like I guess speaker or whatever. But now to be a part of that legacy now, it really, really is a dream come true. And what makes it even better is that we're not only co-hosts with each other, but we're also great friends. So the chemistry that you see is what you would see if the camera was not on. And that's what makes it special. So, and I'm looking forward to future episodes. I'm looking forward to contributing to this new show. And I know I speak on behalf of Christine, John, and David. Kyle, we will not let you down, good sir. Thank you so much.
Right.
So thank you so much for choosing us to be part of this endeavor.
Well, there will be consequences if you let me down. So I'm just kidding. No, I'm super stoked to have you guys on the project. You guys are some of the more passionate. I mean, there's a ton of passionate collectors out there, but in terms of having that friendship and that jive between each other, and like that's what you guys represent to me as passionate collectors that I get along with and that I jive with. And so to me, this makes the most amount of sense to like assemble my Avengers of Godzilla collecting for this new show. Yeah.
If that was the case, you know what? If we were the Avengers, who would be who?
Oh dear God.
I think
I'm the one with the beard.
You know what? I know me, and me being angry all the time, I would be the Hulk. That's hands down. So I guess, Kyle, would you be Captain America since you're the one that brought us together?
Does Captain America have a beard in any of the lines?
Infinity War, he does. Infinity War.
I mean,
it's not as big
sure,
as
yeah.
So you know what? Y'all gonna take this. Kyle, you're Captain America. I'm Hulk. David, you're Iron Man. No, I'll take that back. Since
someone said I'm old, I look like old man Wolverine. So like when I had the beard shorter, you look like old, not young, good-looking Wolverine, old man Wolverine. So I don't know. I know he's not an Avenger, but he's in the same universe, right?
Okay. Kyle's Captain America. I'm Hulk. David, you'll be Iron Man. John, you be Thor, and of course Christine would be Black Widow.
Right on. All right.
So why do I gotta die? Never mind. Go.
Yeah, spoilers, right? Anyway, so I would say I think that means it's time for us to wrap up this episode. Thank you guys for tuning in to our debut episode. We definitely want to get you guys, the viewers, all involved in the show, especially if you're toy photographers and on Instagram. So David is going to introduce this ending segment dedicated to you, our fellow collectors.
So Leslie made us come up with our favorite collectible of 2019. So we all figured that we should put that out there to you guys to show us what your favorite collectible of 2019 is. Doesn't necessarily have to be something that came out that's new, something that you love that you purchased last year. So without further ado, here's what we got. Thanks so much, everyone who contributed. That was awesome. Great photos too.
Yeah, I should have actually ran this little ticker at the bottom too. But basically, we want to do this for every single episode. This was our dedication to the 2019 favorite toys, but we're going to continue the conversation. We're going to keep this going. So please tag us on Instagram and I guess even on Twitter too with your photos. Hashtag it collect all monsters, and also toss in a second hashtag there. Hashtag 2019 favorite toy. And that way we'll be able to reshare that on the Collect All Monsters Instagram feed. And yeah, we're just going to keep this whole love fest going in the coming months. We will return next month for our January show. Did you guys have anything left to say before we call it an evening?
No, I think we covered everything we wanted to, and yeah, we'll just save anything left for the next show.
Everybody have a happy new year. If y'all going out, please be safe, and we hope to see you back next year, sometime in January for our second show. So please come back. We would love to have you.
Happy New Year, happy holidays, and thank you.
Oh, and Kong's still going to win next year. Boom! He's going to get him. He's going to get him. I had to throw that in there. I'm sorry.
Not going to happen.
All right. So until we see you guys next month, we're going to say goodbye, sign off as it is by saying Jitai Made.
Jitai Made. Jitai Made.